Hey everybody, this is Mr. Storm. In this video, we're going to play around with some 2D lighting. Now, by default, Unity will light an entire 3D project or a 2D project, kind of just like this, where everything is lit up at the exact same level. And, it makes it super easy. Most 2D games just want to use the same light source. But for us, our game's going to play around with light in a kind of an interesting way. And so we need to tell it to render things a bit differently. This is where Unity packages come into play. So we're going to create a new lighting system for this game using a universal render pipeline feature that Unity has that we can install. Now, it doesn't come on Unity projects by default, so we have to actually tell it that we want to use that new pipeline. So what we have to do is go to Window and go to Package Manager. You're going to make sure that you have this Unity registry option checked, and you're going to look for this universal render pipeline option. Now, mine is already currently installed. I was playing around with this a little bit earlier just to make sure this feature even works, and it does. So I already have mine installed. You can just click Install down here. Once it fully installs, nothing's really going to change in your project because we have the package, but we need to tell it that we want it to use the universal render pipeline instead of the default pipeline that it uses to render our lighting. So I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to call this renderers so that we can add a new renderer to our project. I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go to create, and then I'm going to look for rendering and universal render pipeline. And I'm going to grab this top one, this pipeline asset forward renderer, and hit enter. Now this is going to create two new scripting objects here. These objects are basically going to tell Unity how to render my pipeline or how to set up my rendering for this project. So let's see, those are there. I have my forward renderer and my universal renderer. Okay, so now I need to tell Unity that my universal renderer is my renderer for this project. So I'm going to go to Edit, Project Settings, and Graphics. Okay, now Graphics says Scriptable Render Pipeline Settings. So I'm going to grab this universal renderer and just bloop, plop it right in there. So now it's going to use that renderer to render my graphics instead of the default. Okay, I'm going to close out of that. Now, there's one more step I need to take. I need to tell my renderer that it's going to use a 2D renderer and not a standard 3D renderer. So I need to actually grab my 2D renderer. I'm going to right click, go to Create, Rendering, Universal Render Pipeline, 2D renderer, and hit enter. Now, under my Universal Render Pipeline scriptable asset, I have this option for my renderer list. I'm going to drag my 2D renderer into that. Now, notice everything just went away. Now, yours may not have, and I'll show you why. There's one more step we have to take. You have to go to Edit, and you have to go to Render Pipeline, Universal Render Pipeline, and you have to upgrade your project materials to 2D renderer materials. This will make it so that every object we have in our game actually will use this 2D renderer and not the default renderer as before, and hit proceed. Now I've already done that for my project, so that's why all of my objects updated. Now don't worry, your things aren't there. You can actually check to see what it looks like by clicking on this little light bulb here, which will turn on global rendering. If we turn it off, we'll see what the lighting looks like in our scene in real time. Okay, so let's add some lights to this scene so we can see what we're doing. I want to have a light on my ghost. So I'm going to right click on my ghost object, and I'm going to go down to light, and I'm going to choose this 2D spotlight. All right, 2D spotlight. So now I have a light on my ghost. And notice that it's indented underneath my ghost. That means it's a child of my ghost. So whenever my ghost moves, that's going to move with it. Now the light's kind of weak, so let's increase the setting over here. What we're really looking for here is radius. So we have an inner radius and an outer radius. I want my outer, let's say, oh, not 30. That's way too much. 3 actually looks kind of good. Let's do 3.5 maybe. That looks good. And then my inner, I'll make it like a 1. So it feels like it glows really intensely in the beginning, and then it kind of bleeds out toward the edge. Maybe a 0.5. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now my ghost generates light, and whenever we move around in our scene, the light will follow my ghost, and I'll be able to see kind of what's coming up, right? So that adds a little bit more of a dynamic feel to my game. So it looks really cool. But I can't see the whole level, so I'm not able to kind of like, I'm not able to, That's cool. I like that. So that is a really fun feature. I like that a lot. That adds some style to our game, and it also adds some challenge to the game as well. All right. So now remember we had these, let's go back to my prefabs. We had these blob things here. And let's turn off so we have these blobs here, and it's a prefab object. The blob, I actually want that to do something for us. So I think it'd be cool if the blob had its own light so that it could illuminate parts of the level. So we can leave blobs behind, kind of breadcrumbs showing us where we've been so that we don't retrace our steps. I think that's a cool feature, especially since we're playing with light in this level. So let's go ahead and create... Yeah, let's create a light here. So we'll do it the same way we did with the ghost. Let's right click and go to light and spotlight 2D. And let's turn off our lighting here so we can see how it looks. And again, I'm going to increase my intensity here. And let's say inner is 1, probably 0.5. Should we go 3 on the... No, I want it to be less powerful than the character's light, just so that it's not, so it doesn't overpower what the character's doing. Okay, perfect. All right, so now I've made changes to the prefab. I want to go ahead and hit apply all, and this overrides so that it applies to every prefab that we drop, or every blob prefab, sorry. And let's delete. Let's try out this feature to see if our blobs are leaving light behind. All right, so I'm going to leave a blob, and look at that. Oh, that looks so good. So I can leave blobs by the spike so I can kind of see where they are. And I can map out the level like that. Oh, that's really cool. Okay, but now I've run out. Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted. I wanted to be able to run out. Man, that looks cool. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Let's create a pickup prefab that when we bump into it, it's going to give us more blobs, right? And you know what? We're actually just going to use this blob sprite that we already have, because we'll just make it look like a blob. Let's go to our sprites, and let's grab this blob sprite, and let's drag it up into the scene here, and we'll put it there so we can kind of see it. Okay. So I like the size of it. Let's change the color. Let's make it kind of like a purple or like a pink. Make it a nice, cool looking color. All right. And let's rename it. I don't want it to be named Blob. Let's call it Refill. All right. And let's make sure it has a collider. Let's do a circle collider 2D. Let's edit the collider so that it's, edit the collider so it matches the sprite. There it is. And let's give it a tag. Let's add a new tag. And, I've already created the pickup tag. So you want to add a new pickup tag, and then let's tag it as a pickup. Okay, perfect. I think that's good. Let's set it somewhere in the level where we can grab it. So right there sounds about good. Alrighty, and let's make it a prefab so that we can add more of, oh, I made a mistake. So with prefabs, if you drag it from the scene view down into here, most of the time it's just going to get lost. It's not going to go where you want it. So it's always best to grab objects from the hierarchy and drag them down. All right, so we have our refill prefab now. Let's go into our script. Let's set up that functionality. Okay, so in our script, we have our update method, we have our onCollisionEnter2D method, and remember with the collision here, we're checking to see if we're colliding with an object that's tagged as an enemy, and if we are, we're resetting the level. Well, what we can do is we can say if collision.gameObject.tag equals pickup, then we don't want to reset the level, we want to do something else. So what we actually want to do is we want to set blob count to be plus equals, let's say, 3. Give us 3 more blobs, or, 5 even, right? And we can change this. We can even actually make this a variable that basically says, we can make it a public variable and say, pickup count. Let's do that. That way we can edit it in the editor if we want. Pickup count, and we'll set that to 3. Pickup count. All right, so that'll add to our total blobs whenever we pick it up. The last thing we want to do is we want to collision.gameObject.setActive and set that to false. What that's going to do is that's going to say whatever we collided with, we're going to take its game object and set it to be inactive. What that means is over here in Unity, if we click this little checkbox, it'll actually turn off our object. Notice that it goes gray there in the hierarchy. And if we were to, let's say, drag it over where we could see it, when we check it off, then it goes away from our scene and we can't interact with it anymore. So that's kind of what we're looking for. We want to turn it off. So we're going to set it active to false. Okay. Let's go ahead and attach this script. That's all the scripting we're going to do, by the way, is just add this one if statement and then have it increase our blobs and then turn it off whenever we're done. So we've added that. All right. Now over here, let's see. I do want to let's reduce the amount. So we have 3. We'll keep it at 5 blobs. Why not? Okay. So we're going to keep an eye on the blob count and pickup count over here. Well, really just the blob count. So we can see how many blobs we're dropping and see our numbers go back up whenever we pick it up. Okay. So blobs down to 4, 3. All right. Now let's grab our pickup here. And notice that our blob count, it should have gone up. Let's see what happened there. I'm going to try that again. I'm going to keep my blob count at 5 and then run into it and see if we get another 5. It should increase it to 10. It increased it, because we're increasing by 8, or by 3, that's why. So now we have 8 blobs that we can drop. Okay, so the script is acting exactly how we expect. Now we have a way to dynamically create light in our scene. We have some resource management that you have to kind of consider while you're playing. We have a pickup that we can run into. You can even add more pickups here. Like maybe you want your blobs to only be 2. And if you pick up a blob, it only adds 1, but you want to add more refills throughout the level. That will add some more, kind of functionality to the game. Let's try that out. Boop, boop. And now I'm out of blobs, but I can pick up another one here and drop it. Pick up another one here and drop it. Pick up this one, drop it. But now I'm completely out. All right, cool. Well, I think that worked out. Universal lighting by default in 2D games mostly works, but for us, we wanted something different. So we figured out how to make it work, and we made it work, even if it was a bit difficult. Hopefully all the talk about rendering and all the steps that we took weren't too confusing. And if you need any help trying to repeat these steps or recreate them, just let me know. And if for some reason your lighting system just doesn't work the way it's expected, it's okay if you ignore that part and then just worry about the pickups and stuff. I think it looks really good and it adds some cool effect to the game. So, yeah, that's about it. Next week, we're going to get into user interfaces. We're actually going to add a pickup counter up here at the top of the screen for our blobs, so we know how many blobs we have that we can drop, so we can kind of keep an eye on our resources as we're playing the game. Yeah, and we might actually add a main menu and probably a game over screen, so we'll have some lives. And so I don't know, we'll play around with it. We'll see what we can come up with. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's going to be it for this week. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will see you next time. I'm going to play this for a minute. This game is super cool. I'm actually kind of happy with the way this is turning out. All right, cool. Yeah, this is fun. All right, I will see you guys next week. I'm going to sit here and play for a while. Bye.